Hey, it's Rocky. Welcome to Richer Soul. Today's guest is Tommy Breedlove, who walked away from a highly paid position to live life on his terms. Listen into his story and the wisdom he shares from his journey to choose greatness. Imagine it's 12 months from now, and you've achieved your major life goals. How does it feel to be in the best shape of your life? To wake up energized, excited about the day? To have great relationships and friends who support you and propel you forward? How does it feel to have an excess of money, to be able to make the choices you want? To be fearless and open to trying new adventures? Imagine being connected to the universe and it providing everything you desire. It's possible over time, and your past does not dictate your future. The only thing holding you back from this vision is you. It's time to take control of our thoughts and use them to our advantage. Welcome to Richer Soul, where we achieve our dreams and bring balance to health, wealth, relationships, time, and spirituality. If you have not had a chance to listen to episodes 1 through 9, I encourage you to go back and listen to the framework behind Richer Soul and how to create the life of your dreams. You can also find all the show notes for this episode at richersoul.com. While you're there, you can sign up for a monthly email where I share the best articles I read this month, let you know about upcoming episodes, and share a little wisdom. You can also listen to coaching calls under the Coaching Calls tab. I also share the most interesting articles I read every week on Facebook at facebook.com/Richer Soul. And there's also a Facebook group where you can ask questions and interact with other listeners. We have more control than most of us realize. Each day is filled with thousands of opportunities to change the story of our lives. Michael Hyatt. That's going to be the focus of today's episode. How do we take control of our lives, figure out our purpose, face ourselves in the mirror, and bring about change? No one can do this for us or make the choices. It's up to us. Having people to help us and support us through it is a big part of it. For me, when I coach people, I see the forest while they see the tree. Having someone to help you see the vision is important. In my life, Tommy is one of those people. Every week, we hold each other accountable. He sharpens me and he calls me out. He watches my micro expressions when I talk and says, "Hey, your words are not matching what you really feel. We can't do this alone. We all need help, and I help business owners ensure they put profit first in their business so they can live the life of their dreams." Tommy's been through a lot in life, and I know his story will inspire you to live your life on purpose and with gratitude. Tommy's purpose is to empower humans to build a legendary life. He guides audiences and his clients to discover their zone of brilliance while living a balanced, meaningful life. Tommy really does believe we can have it all, a life of significance without compromising our business success. His goal is to help people become the very person they've always dreamed of being and build a lasting legacy. Tommy went from overcoming incarceration as a young man to working at Deloitte, one of the largest financial consulting firms in the world, in less than 3 years. He gained business notoriety and financial success throughout his career, and eventually became senior partner, international practice leader, and member of the board of directors of a prestigious firm. Tommy looked like the definition of success on the outside, but was crumbling on the inside, and almost lost everything, including his life. He made the massive and courageous choice to transform himself and intentionally walked away at the top of his career and millions of dollars to follow his true calling. Now he works as a featured keynote speaker, author, and premier business, relationship, and mindset coach. Let's meet my friend, Tommy. Welcome to Richer Soul, Tommy Breedlove. It's great to have you join us today.
What's happening, my brother Rocky? It's great to be here, my man. I am so excited to talk all things life and money with you, my brother.
And I am as well. Looking forward to the conversation. We always start at the beginning. What was it like when you were growing up, and how much did your family and school teach you about money?
I would say nothing, which is to me one of the biggest problems in our society culture. I grew up in humble beginnings, good blue collar, solid part of the world. My parents, they made a great living for me. My dad was classically trained at the military and then was a mechanic at Delta. And my mom worked jobs at courthouses. They were, I would say, lower middle class folks, good blue collar, hardworking, but didn't understand money, investments. And they worked to do the things they enjoyed as opposed to trying to build something better for themselves and others. But what was great about that is they wanted something more for me. I'll fast forward through it, but I ended up being the first person to graduate college from my family and was lucky enough to get an accounting degree from the University of Georgia. And from that degree, that led me into Deloitte, which was at the time one of the largest public accounting and financial consulting firms, mergers and acquisitions. I mean, they pretty much had their hands in everything. I was fortunate enough to be classically trained both at the University of Georgia from my degree and then from Deloitte and other larger financial firms to understand the power of money, the importance of money, that money is a scorecard. It keeps score for if you're doing things really well or not really well. And it's also a magnifying glass that if you're a great person, it will make you great. If you're not the nicest person, it will magnify that not niceness. Unfortunately, as a young man, I did not grow up knowing a lot about money or business, but I always had this craving desire to learn more. So that's a little bit about me and my background.
And thank you for sharing that. And it's true. I think people who are looking for money to get happiness are not going to find happiness because the money is going to magnify whatever the underlying issues are. And if you're not happy on the journey to making money, you're not going to be happy when you get there.
100%. And a little bit more about me is fast forward to when I was 36 or 37 years old. I was a principal in a large public accounting financial consulting firm in the Southeast. I had the money, the cars, the title, the cufflinks, the big office, the prestige. I was still unfulfilled and void inside. And it's because I had never found that fulfillment or self-love or self-respect as a man, and thought that the next big deal, the next big transaction, and the next acquisition of a house or a boat or a car would fulfill me. And it didn't. And Rocky, between you and I and your audience, I mean, this is a public story now. It almost cost me everything, because then when I knew coming from humble beginnings that the money and power weren't going to fulfill me, and I wasn't doing into the important emotional, mental, spiritual, physical work, I started seeking happiness through other things. And that came in the form of chemicals. That came in the form of women. It came in the form of just whatever I could do to make myself feel important or lovable. And it just never worked. And it almost cost me everything. Money's important. Anyone that says it's not important is broke. I would run from them. But it is, again, we talked about it, a magnifying glass. And if you're an unhappy person, it's going to magnify that unhappiness. If you're a person filled with love and abundance and service mentality, it's going to allow you to do amazing things with that. That's been my experience with money, and that's what I got.
And it's true. And I just want to kind of clarify for the audience. You had a 7-figure job, and you were literally at the top of the game, and you walked away from it all because in spite of all of the success at work and the money, it wasn't all that. And I think that's what so many of us chase is that's what we were told was success. And you get there and you realize it isn't success. And the house and the car and those things don't provide what really matters in life.
Yeah, that's been certainly my experience. And so when I walked away at that point in my career, I wasn't quite at the level you told me. I would have been there very fast. Those type of paydays would have become the norm within the next couple of years. And then I would have probably walked away with the almost 8-digit net worth when I was said and done. But for me, it was the work that I was doing was unfulfilling. The void I had inside, it was never going to be filled by the next big deal, the next money, the next power, the next prestige. And so I went on this journey to figure out who I was as a human and how I could not only serve myself, alleviate my pain, to become the master over my thoughts, to learn unconditional love for myself, but also take that service mentality into the marketplace and help others to become their best person so that they can make as much money or as much success or as much happiness as they can make. But you're right. At the end of the day, it certainly helps us to be the people we want us to be, but it will never fill the void if you don't feel lovable, if you don't feel enough, if you don't feel good enough, if you have insecurities and fears and struggle with envy and jealousy, it's never going to fill that void. There you have it.
When you were walking away, was it easy? Did you just say, hey, I'm out of here, and there was not a worry in sight? Or was it a difficult decision to go through and to walk away from all of that?
It was a horribly difficult decision that was eat up in fear and insecurity. And I had worked so very hard. I'd worked thousands and thousands and thousand hours from early 20s all the way up to age 37. And it's important for your audience to know this just didn't happen overnight. I went through this massive emotional, mental, and spiritual transformation at 37. And that's when I changed my mindset from fear to abundance and love. And I made me my full-time job, not working my full-time job. And so from age 37 to 39, which is really more of a 3-year period as opposed to a 2-year period, my network went up 100x, my money potential went up 100x, my business went up 100x, and my relationship with my wife and friends. Through that, I had been elected to the board of directors. I was international practice leader and a senior partner of a big firm. And so my income potential at 39 was going to be very, very high for the next 30 years. But I knew just from that transformation, this is not what I was put on earth to do. However, that doesn't mean all those fears and insecurities and am I good enough? I have this base of knowledge. I have this big firm behind me and their name behind me. And so, yeah, it took me a long time to make that decision. I had mentors. I hired a coach. I had a psychologist. I talked to my wife on a regular basis. And so it was a very big decision. And it was about 65% of our household income at the time. And so because I come from humble beginnings, I had all these fears. Well, am I going to live under a bridge? Am I good enough? Can I do this when I go out on my own? And so what it came down to me was two things. At the firm, it's not that they were bad people. They were just very different than me because I had gone through such a big transformation. And I knew their value systems and what they thought was important and what I thought was important were two different things. That was number one. And number two, I had discovered my purpose. And when I went through that huge transformation, Rocky, all of these alpha male men, lawyers, accountants, entrepreneurs, corporate executives, managers, people in the corporate world started reaching out to me and said, hey, man, you seem to not have lost your ambition or drive, but you seem to have more peace and less stress and more balance in your life. Can you give me that magic pill or tell me what you're doing? And so between knowing that the firm didn't have the same value systems as me and B, knowing that there was a calling for me to go help other very ambitious men, not change the man, but help them sharpen skills, sharpen their tools and skills to become the best leader, the best father, the best husband, the best human. And I still work on that every day. Sometimes I still struggle with that. But to help them become the best people they can become without compromising their ambition, I knew I had a life's calling. I knew it was my purpose. And so I wanted to chase that. And B, I knew my value systems were different than the firm. So it helped me to transition a little easier. But to say it was easy and to say it was out without fear, that would not be truthful.
And that's what I think people need to understand is it does take work. So what does it mean? Like when you say you spent a full-time job working on yourself, what does that entail? Like, what does it mean to work on yourself, that you change yourself into this new person? What are some of the steps you took or some of the actions?
My hope for your audience is that they don't have to hit what I call rock bottom. And for me, that meant I actually woke up in a ditch at 37 years old, supposedly at the top of my game. Supposedly, this is the guy to follow who's doing really well at his firm, but yet inside he didn't believe himself, he didn't love himself, and he never felt good enough. That's the truth. And so I was on this crash course of what I think is death. And so when I woke up and literally woke up and said, enough is enough. And I don't know if it was the little boy crying out that, hey, help me, or it was God, or a combination of both. But I was like, you got to get up and live. And so for me, what making me my full-time job meant is every single day, and I still do it till this day. And I actually got away from it recently, and it almost cost me. But every single day, mostly, I spend 2 hours a day working on my emotional well-being, my mental well-being, my physical well-being, and my spiritual well-being, because they're all muscles. And for me, the biggest thing for my mental is I meditate and I read. For my emotional, I have great conversations with my inner circle. I do writings of gratitude journal. I have this boatload of readings that I do. I pray. And so I have all these tools in my toolbox, and then I have a whole lot more that I spend hours upon hours a day working on myself so that I can serve myself. And for me, working on myself means becoming the master over my thoughts, because we all have that inner self critic that's so powerful sometimes. It says we're not good enough. Why does anybody care? And what if they find out I really don't know what I'm doing? And even worse, what if they find out who I really am? And even worse than that, what if they find out my deepest, darkest desires, that woo-ah moment, And we all have that. So I have all these tools in my toolbox to help me help me to feel unconditional love for myself, to help me to become the master over my thoughts, but to also help me serve myself so that I can serve my wife, my community, my family, the men that I serve, the speaking clients that I do. So it's just all about investing, working out the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual muscles each and every day so that they don't atrophy, so that then I can go be the human, in my opinion, I was born to be. And I think all of us have that in us, and trust me, Rocky, if I can do this, anyone can do it. And so for me, it's just about being the best person I can be. And you're in my mastermind, Rocky. I mean, over this past month, I went away from that. And it has cost my relationship with my wife a little bit. It's cost my emotional well-being a little bit. I've been a little more angry than I normally have. I'm not resting as good as I am. So as soon as you walk away from building those muscles, things happen, right? And I knew immediately, and you helped me with this. Guys like you help hold me accountable and help me plug back into being the best human I can be so that I can serve. And the ultimate reason also, Rocky, is I think we're all put here for a purpose. I think our purpose changes over time, but we're all put here for a reason. And it's our job to find that reason depending on the seasons of our life and use that purpose to serve ourselves and others. And so, to me, it's about looking back on life with happiness and not regret.
Clearly, at the end of life, having regrets is a sad place to be. And so making sure that you don't have regrets is the way to live. And I have those thoughts to myself too, is I sit down and say, if I died today, would I have regrets? And the answer is no to what I've done. My only regrets are that I'm not still there to help my children go forward through things and I'm leaving my wife behind. But it's not that I haven't done what I wanted to do in life. So you're talking about a lot of inner work. You're talking about a couple hours a day. And one of the big things we talk about is time. And I think for a lot of people, they're probably going, how am I supposed to find 2 hours a day to work on myself, right? Because they're running around like crazy. How do I become a successful business person, or how do I become successful at work when most people who are listening are high income earners or business people? How do I get 2 hours a day to do that? Can I really do that and be successful?
My answer is 100% yes. And so let me give you two scenarios. One is pre-transformation. I was working somewhere between 70 and 90 hours a week. I was a principal in a very large firm. And I was that guy of he who turns the lights out last wins. And it was all about, outworking everyone. And I've realized that less is more. And I know that's counterintuitive, but hear me out on this. First is we are the maker of our time. And every single moment of every single day, how we spend our time is a choice. Whether we're with our family, whether we're in our business, our careers, or working on ourselves, going to the gym, having ice cream, or just having fun. It's a choice. And so I would bet at a minimum that, especially your ambitious folks who listen to this, I bet there is at least 2 to 4 hours a day that is still a waste of time. Whether it's social media, whether it's TV, whether it's reading the newspaper. And if they really take a deep dive into their quote professional career and look at how much time they're on useless emails or tasks that really don't move the ball forward, if they really look at their time and become the master of their time and work on time blocking, to say you don't have between 15 minutes and an hour to 2 hours for yourself, that would be a lie. And to say you don't have time, that's just saying I'm choosing to do something else with our time. And so I would really, regardless of your situation, regardless of your life, regardless of your family responsibilities, every single thing is a choice. And all of the great, and I've been a researcher of this now for 8 years, all of the great, what we consider the great business people, is they are very discerning with their time. And they also only spend about 4 to 6 hours a day working, quote, on their business and leading their business. And they spend a significant time on themselves and then a significant times with their families so that they can recharge, so that they can do more in those 4 to 6 hours than a lot of us, and I'll say us, would do in 12 to 14 hours, just trying to push. So it's a combination of rest. It's a combination of refilling your energy tanks with serving yourself, serving your families, and then spending that 4 to 6 to 8 hours a day, really honing in on your business to be the best you can possibly be in that. But it's a choice. Time is a choice, and you've got to constantly fill up your tanks, both with rest and fuel, so that you can be the best you can be. So just know it's a choice, and there's a lot, and time is a choice, and you are the maker of your time. To say you don't have time is a absolute lie. And B, when you say you don't have time, you're basically saying, I know I choose to do this over this. And that's something I think all of us need to realize.
And I think part of that is also stopping the interruptions and teaching people that you are not to be interrupted at certain times. Because if you
totally
can create those time blocks and they are not interrupted, you can get massive amounts of stuff done.
And non-negotiable.
Yeah, non-negotiable in a very short period of time. And from that standpoint, it's definitely much, much easier. And the funny thing is, we'll give up our time a lot easier than we'll give up our money. And yet our time is far more valuable than the money. And I think when we start
so true,
realizing that and start treating our time like our money and start putting boundaries around it, then you can control it much better and you can get stuff done in a reasonable amount of time.
I love that. And that is so true. And what a great reminder. We can always make more money. I mean, you literally can make more money, but you can't make more time. But there is something though that when we're talking about setting the boundaries and blocking off time, but there's also a habit and discipline of, if you're blocking off 2 hours to do a certain project, it's easy, very, very easy to get distracted with email or social media or checking voicemail and not actually working on that project. So I think to reiterate is, you said something best, is you can't generate more time, and time is precious. You can always make more money. But the discipline, when you start blocking off your time and setting boundaries with is the discipline that comes in from actually doing the things that you know you need to do, and not doing the meaningless tasks that get in all of our ways. I think it's a combination of both of those.
It is. There's a principle around time, and I forget what it's called, but basically it says that the job expands to the time allotted to it. So if you give yourself 10 hours to do something, it'll take 10 hours. If you give yourself 2 hours to do the same thing, it'll get done in 2 hours, because A, you won't procrastinate anymore, and B, it'll be good enough to get done and you'll move on.
So true. And I think us as humans, we get caught up in the perfectionism bug. Oh, it's got to be perfect. It's got to be perfect. And the control bug. And I think when you constrict your time and you're under a strict deadline to get something done, it becomes good enough, and you do your best work on it, and you don't allow the distractions to kick in. So that I don't know the principle, but I know exactly what you're talking about. And so it's so true.
I'll have to look that up again. Not a problem. You left the big job, you left all the money, and you took a turn to do something different. And I believe it's called Choose Goodness. Why did you create Choose Goodness?
Yeah, so Choose Goodness is a movement. I used to think it was all about the goodness, and now I realize it's all about the choices. And so my particular piece of the Choose Goodness movement is I work with very ambitious executive men to give them the tools to be the best leaders, the best businessmen, and the best fathers, the best husbands, and the best men that they can be, because it's something I have struggled with in my life in the chase of money. And so, but Choose Goodness is a bigger movement. My wife's involved in the movement. She works with women together. We work with relationships, and we also do some investing and other things. But to me, the Choose Goodness movement is all about the power of choices. And for us as humans to believe, to me, we're granted 3 gifts in life: the gift of life, the fact that we get to sit here and talk on this podcast today, what a gift that is, and the fact that we get to breathe and live another day. And we also get the gift of death, which means we're not going to be here forever. So time is of the essence. We're talking about time earlier. And that we need to make the best of every day that we can. And the third gift is the gift of choice. And that's where Choose Goodness comes in. And knowing every single moment of every single day, every second is a choice. And we get to choose how we spend our time. We get to choose how we act. We get to choose how we think, and we get to choose how we believe. And so Choose Goodness was all about a movement to help people know that they do have a choice, that they can make courageous choices and confident choices, and what I call conscious choices, choices in your value systems and in your what you feel is right in the world. And that when you do choose, that God willing, you choose goodness. And goodness to me, which used to be the focus, now it's more on choice. But goodness to me is about making choices that benefit yourself, your family, your community, and society, and that doesn't suppress someone else. And I believe, and this is a firm belief in me, is I 100% believe we can have it all in life. I believe we can have balance. I believe we can have love. I can believe we can have less stress, and also do that with being financially, business, and career successful. And so Choose Goodness was a movement that was founded by me when I was 37 years old, when I went through that massive transition in the financial consulting world. My wife is a part of it. We've got a community that's a part of it. And to me, it's all about helping us be the best humans that we can possibly be and live the lives without regret, and to be, I could go on and on and on. I'm very passionate about the Choose Goodness movement, as you can tell, but so that's what the Choose Goodness was about. It was just about helping people make confident, clear, courageous, conscious choices in the name of goodness so that they can better themselves, better their communities, and better their families. And so that's what Choose Goodness was born to be.
And so this word balance has been a struggle. It's one that we've gone back and forth with a lot of guests, and also with just the listeners of what does balance mean. And a recent guest came on and said, it's not balance, it's harmony. It's kind of like music playing. So you had mentioned you're going to be a leader, you're going to run a business, you're going to be a father. Balance is trying to keep all those things equal. It just isn't going to work. But when you're living life in harmony, it kind of means that at a certain point, the child becomes a bigger portion of the song of your life. And then at other times, the work becomes a bigger portion of the song. And at other points, your wife becomes a bigger portion. Now, all these portions are still playing in the background all the time. And that's kind of, the harmony seems to play better than the word balance. And I'd love to hear your thoughts.
I 1000% agree with that. I don't know which of your guests said that, but kudos to them. Balance is all about rebalancing depending on the season of your life. And if we need to double down on our business to provide for ourselves and our families, or to build our companies to support, the individuals who work there and ourselves, that's our balance. That's where we need to focus. There's sometimes in our children's lives or our significant others' lives that we need to balance in on that. If our relationships aren't going as well as they need to go, we shift our balance and we focus there, because we're human beings at the end of the day. We're going to make mistakes. We've got challenges, and it's not if life hits you in the face, it's when. And so to me, I love that harmony is, you always have to balance and rebalance and focus and refocus depending on where you are in the season of your life. And I believe the same thing, not only for time and balance, but also for your purpose. Purpose is another word that's thrown around a lot. And to me, your purpose, depending on the season of your life, changes. And I think we're all put here to do certain things at certain times in our lives. So between your time management, i.e. balance, and the reason that you were put here on earth, purpose, is those things shift back and forth depending on where we are. And I love that word harmony. As long as you're not sacrificing the entire whole for a piece of your life, whether it's your business, your career, or your family, or your give backs, or whatever it might be, as long as you're constantly, shifting back and forth, then you're living life. And there is no perfect life. I mean, if we were perfect, this life would be extremely boring. And so we do the best we can with what we have. But unless, and here's a core belief of mine, Rocky, but you constantly have to work on your mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical state as an individual in order to be and serve the best that you can, because it's not when life will happen again on your career. It's not when life will happen with your family. Is the more you invest in yourself and the more you exercise those muscles, your heart muscles, your mental muscles, your spiritual muscles, and your physical muscles, when life happens and you need to balance or you need to shift your purpose to focus on your family to survive, you'll be ready. Otherwise, you'll crumble and you'll get caught up in the fear and anger and jealousy and martyrdom. And so that's why I'm such an advocate about the working on yourself. And so I'll let that stay there. But I love, love, love that analogy of harmony.
We'll be back with Tommy in a moment. Are you living in harmony? Do you have the fuel to make the choices you want? We're going to be talking a lot more about profit comes first. Just recently, Uber went public, and it's currently worth $70 billion in market cap. And yet, they have no profit. This is crazy. It doesn't matter how much you make, it's how much you keep. What are you doing to keep an excess amount of your money in your business or personal life so you have the freedom to control your time and make the choices that you want? Profit has to come first. And if you aren't doing that in your business, because looking at the numbers feels like a root canal, it's time to face the music. Reach out to me and I can make it feel like eating a bowl of ice cream. By making you profitable, you have the time to live your life on purpose and do the inner work. Now, let's get back to our amazing conversation with Tommy and learn how. So you've mentioned quite a few times, life is going to hit you in the face.
Oh, yeah.
What do you do? It's tough when it does. How do you accept it and then get back up and keep going? Because that is literally the answer, is to get back up and keep going. And it sounds so simple, and yet it's so hard.
It's so simple, yet it's so hard. There's only a few truths. The truth is we're going to suffer. The truth is, God willing, we're going to watch our parents, disintegrate and pass away. Hopefully, we will not watch the same in our children. We know that we're going to get sick. We know that friends are going to die. We know that war in life is going to happen. And so life is a series of suffering. And I believe us as human beings, our jobs, if I had, and I'm not going to go too woo-woo on you guys, but if I had to go, our job is to help as best we possibly can eliminate that suffering within ourselves, our families, our communities, and our careers. And so we have to look in the mirror and know that we're not going to be here forever. And that's a gift. I mean, it truly is a gift, because if we were, again, perfect and immortal, this life would be ridiculously boring. And so knowing that, God willing, we will outlive our kids, and knowing that our spouses, we might not outlive our spouses, and knowing that eventually we're going to turn to dust, what a gift. And so it's not if life is going to happen, but why can't we build the tools and skills and self-confidence and self-respect and love so that when those times come, that we can step up and step in as human beings, as women and men, and be the support system and hopefully the beacon of light for others and ourselves when those times happen. Because it's not if, it's when. And so many of us, it's easy to do the same things over and over again. It's easy to watch the 8th hour of Netflix, or to have the 5th beer, or to plug into your social media, or, all of the distractions and noise of life. But those distractions will only take you so far, because life's going to happen. And, you can't have the yin without the yang. You can't have the sunrise without the sunset. You can't have the beauty without the darkness. And so, accepting that and knowing that's what life is A, and B, constantly sharpening your pencil, taking one baby step at a time to be the best person that you can be, to be a rock and a foundation for your family and yourself when things hit the fan. It's hard. I mean, it's really, really hard. But what makes the top 10% of humans and the top 5% of humans and the top 1% of humans, those people, is they surround themselves with people who believe the same things, who want to be better, who want to step in and step up and really make a difference in this lifetime. Because what else are we here for? We're not here to play video games. We're not here to drink ourselves into oblivion. We're not here to just live a non-existent life. We're here to serve. And knowing you're here to serve both yourself and others, that's what it's all about. And so many of us humans, we just go through life. It's frustrating to me because I lived that way for 37 years. I thought that the acquisition of things, money, and power was going to bring me joy and satisfaction because I came from humble beginnings. I was wrong. Really, the only thing that's going to bring joy in our lives, true joy, is unconditional love for ourselves, beginning to become the master over our thoughts, controlling that self-critic that tells us we're not good enough. And doing the best we can on those fronts, and then taking those tools and then being of service to humanity to help alleviate the suffering of others in our businesses, our career, and our families. That's the meaning of life, is to give love, to receive love, to find your purpose, to use your purpose, and to continuously grow and to be a better person. And so if we don't do that as human beings, here's what I've read recently, and I almost wrecked my car when I heard this. It says the definition of hell is when you die, the person you are meets the person you could have became. And to me, that's just unacceptable. And so I know, Rocky, for you and the work that you're doing, both with helping, people be more financially viable. And I've sent clients your way, and the work you do in the pharmaceutical world. I know you're trying to make a difference. You are making a difference in people's lives, both financially and in your family and others. And that's what we're here to do. We're here to serve and to alleviate the suffering of others. And to me, that's where it ends and begins.
So one of the things I heard you say is baby steps. And I talk about baby steps because I think too often people sit here and expect massive change. And the reality is, it took you 37 years to get to where you were. It took me a good chunk of my life to get to where I was when my weight was at its height. And yet people expect instant change, and that's not the case. I mean, the reason I've been able to keep weight off is because I took baby steps and changed the way I live my life. And now I can be in the best health and the best shape I've ever been of my life. And so I think that's powerful. And I think too often people are trying to do massive changes and then it doesn't stick or they give up. But when you take little teeny baby steps, they compound over time to massive change and the life that you truly want to live.
I 100% agree with that. And I think when we try to make massive changes, we get overwhelmed. When we're swinging for the fences to hit that home run, or take it in the business world, the entrepreneurial startup who's trying to make $1 billion. But the Rome wasn't built in a day, and you can't eat an elephant. I'm using all the cliches I've got. But what's really, really cool is you make one little baby step today, and it could be simply getting out of bed. And I know for a lot of people that's very difficult. Or it could be, I'm going to take 5 minutes for myself and walk around the building and look at nature. It could be, I'm going to write down 5 things that I'm really thankful for. There's a bazillion tools out there that you can do in 5 minutes or less to make your life better than it was yesterday. And what's really, really cool is 365 days from now, those little baby steps will have made a massive impact. It's the compound effect where, I know this is a show about money, and I don't need to educate your audience on compound interest or investment strategies or how the market works. But each baby step that we make in our physical journey, I am a big believer that your mental, emotional, and spiritual health is just as important as your physical health. But each baby little step, I'm not saying become a vegetarian overnight if you've been eating steak your whole life. I'm not saying go to the gym for 4 hours a day if you haven't even walked 5 steps. But just do something very, very small and do something you enjoy. Just change it up a little and make one step at a time. And the compound effect of what that'll happen in 365 days from now, from your happiness to your health, to the way you feel about yourself, to fulfillment in life, it will be so extraordinarily different. It is baby steps. Otherwise, we'll get overwhelmed and we won't do it. And so that's why, how many gyms are full in January? Oh, we're going to change ourselves. And then in February, they're empty because it's just too big of a thing for us. So we got to make small steps each and every day.
And so I know you talked about earlier 2 hours a day on that internal work and your self-development, and that's a big jump. But if you started with just 5 minutes a day, and I think everyone can find 5 minutes a day, if you started with 5 minutes a day this month, and next month you added another 5 minutes, and next month you added another 5 minutes, at the end of the year, you've got 60 minutes a day to work on yourself. And at the end of 2 years, you've got the 2 hours a day to work on yourself. And it all happened 5 minutes at a time over a month. True. And so that is how compounding works. So it all works. It just takes time, and you have to just keep showing up and doing the work.
And sometimes that's hard.
It is.
And sometimes showing up is hard, but that's what separates this life is worth living, and showing up for yourself so that you can show up for others. There's sometimes when you can't do it for yourself, do it for someone else, and vice versa, right?
Absolutely. That gives you the excuse, right? Do it for someone else.
Indeed. Indeed.
You've talked about purpose. And as I talk to people, I find that very few people are clear on their purpose in life. What have you found to help people figure out their purpose?
It is absolutely my favorite thing in life to do, is to help people find their purpose. And so, Rocky, I am in the purpose in pain business. People call me when they're in pain and they want to fix some sort of career, business, relationship, or life issue. I wish more people called me about my purpose, working on their purpose and the reason they were put here on earth. And so it's not easy to find. The quickest I've ever found it in one of my clients was in about a 3-hour session. It's a big radio host. He's syndicated all over the country. We were able to get him to find his purpose and hone it in within 3 hours. Sometimes it takes 11 to 12 months. But again, your purpose, the reason you're here on this earth at this particular time, it changes from season to season in your life. And sometimes it's unclear. So if you don't know your purpose, what I would suggest you do is the easiest way, and I'm not saying this because this is what I do, is to hire a coach like me to help you find it, because there's ways to do it. So purpose to me is finding your God-given talents, your zones of brilliance, and combining that with who you want to serve, and then the something that's needed based on who you want to serve and your God-given talents, and something that's needed in this world that you can provide. And where all three of those meet is your purpose. That's a very simplified way of saying, you were put here for a reason. You've got your inner desires, your core values, and you've got things that really candidly piss you off. And the flip side of what really angers you is your value system. And so you understand what you really care about. That's your value system, the things that make you mad. The other side of that's your value system, what you really care about. And you've got these God-given talents. And sometimes it takes a coach or a mentor or a mastermind group to help you find your God-given talents. And when you use those talents to serve those people with a need they don't have, that's your purpose. Hopefully that can be done through your work, but often it is not. And so our family will fulfill us a certain way. Our spirituality will fill us a certain way, but your purpose is the closure of all of us say, well, I'm successful in business. I've got a great family. I've got a great spiritual life, but I feel like there's something missing. Well, that something missing is you. And I believe all of us were put here for a reason. And to use your God-given talents and the things that you really care about, and to solve a pain within that community, whether it's with service work, philanthropic work, or even better, if you can combine your job to do that, that's what your purpose is really all about. And it's my favorite thing. I've got a guy flying in from Oklahoma City tomorrow. He's going to spend 2 hours with me on Thursday and 2 hours on Friday. And we're going to work on that so that he can begin. He's a big real estate investor. He's going to begin. We're going to figure out if we can combine his work with that and maybe his company with that. But if we can't, we're going to help him do that on his own. But it's something that we're all called to do because we're put here not just for others, but for ourselves. It's something I'm truly passionate about. And I believe we're all put here for a reason.
And that we are. And so I'm going to share a resource that I've shared in the past, but I'll remind people there's a book from Michael Hyatt, and it's called Living Forward. And it literally takes you through the steps of how you got in the drift and how to get out of the drift and how to create essentially your purposeful life plan. So if you're not at the place that you want to coach or you're ready to do something big and bold and you want to take a baby step, that book is one of the best resources I have found for people to sit down and create their life plan. It's not going to happen overnight. You're going to read the book and it's probably going to take you 3, 6, 9 months to come up with your initial draft of who you want to be and how you want to live. But it is the most crucial thing to do because once you know where you're going, it is so easy to get there. But until you know where you're going, you're just going around in circles and you're struggling. And the faster you go, the faster the circles, and you end up in the life that you might be in already. So when you have clarity on what you want and where you're going, it is just so easy to get there. And all of a sudden the universe opens up and gives you everything you need to achieve that.
I love that. The how always appears. It always appears. And I think Simon Sinek calls it your why. And I know Hyatt has a great way of putting that too. But once you know your why, the how you will do it will always appear. Well said, Rocky. Well said. And no, and this is important too. I don't think a lot of people talk about that. It's not just one purpose. Depending on the season of your life and where you are you retiring? You come into the workplace? Do you have a sick daughter or a sick family member? Your purpose can change, and it can change very quickly. But knowing you always have a choice, going back to that choice again, to go and find it again. And it just happens when you feel unfulfilled or you feel like you're in a rat race and like, why am I here? That's when you got to double down and go find it.
And I think for most people, and what I've noticed in life is about every 10 years, life changes. You become a different person and your purpose changes along with it just naturally as you age. Each decade brings something different and a new goal and a new desire and a new destination that you're aiming for.
So true. I've been very fortunate to help a lot of retirees who are with so much wisdom and so much to offer, from mentorship to business knowledge to life knowledge. And they're like, well, what do I do now? I was like, the world needs you now more than it ever has, because one thing we've gotten away from in our society is elders, right? And the elder society. And so what's been so rewarding for me is not only learning from these folks, but helping guide them to take that wisdom from business to life to knowledge to love and go, give it to the world. It's been the most satisfying thing. And so I think that 10-year rule, depending on where you're young or old or everything in between, it doesn't really matter. Old is not a word, seasoned, because Rocky, you and I are both getting up there, man. We're seasoned. But yeah, I think it changes. And as long as you're growing and learning and not just sitting and dying, I mean, that's what life's all about, right? Is using your purpose to better yourself and others. And that's what we're put here for. And that's how you'll be fulfilled at the end of the day.
That is true. And as you meet those people full of wisdom, show them how to use a microphone and connect them with me so we can get them on the show and have 100%. Them share their wisdom, because I would love that.
Done, my friend.
So I know you have a book coming out shortly called Legendary. Why did you choose to write that?
It came to me and my team and our publisher overnight is, I think, something that me, my community, guys like yourself, Rocky, I think we strive to become legends. And I don't mean that in a pompous, I don't mean that in an arrogant, prideful, and hubris way. I believe we truly, all of us, I don't care where you're from. I don't care what circumstances you come from, what color your skin is, what mistakes you've made, whether you're rich or poor. I believe all of us inside have the potential to live a legendary life. And you don't have to be Martin Luther King or Jesus Christ or Steve Jobs to be a legend. And for me, these are the tools and tips that I've learned. I'm a craftsman at self-development, mindset development, relationship development, leadership. I study this craft. I've been researching for 8 years. I work with a lot of clients. I'm involved with a lot of groups. And it's accumulation of 8 years of research and hard work of what I believe it takes to live a purpose-driven life of significance and meaning, with less stress and balance and without compromising your business and financial success. And so it's a playbook with some great stories of normal folks, some extraordinary folks, and other folks to help all of us in simple ways, one baby step at a time, to build a legendary life, and not to leave a bunch of money behind for other folks. That doesn't really matter. Is what do we leave inside of other people from how we treated people to how we acted. And so to me, it's an important book. It's a book I needed 8 years ago to help step up and step into this life. And I hope that others will find inspiration in it and apply there's a lot of tools in there, apply just one or two of those tools in their life to help them to become legendary, and also help them define what legendary actually means to them based on their purpose and why they were put here. Regardless if you're going to impact one person or 100 million, it doesn't really matter to me, because if you impact one person and you leave them better than you were, you become a legend. And so that's what legend is all about for me.
And that's cool. I look forward to reading it when it comes out. And then we can have you back on and we can talk about the book once I do that.
Absolutely.
That'll be cool. So you're doing something unique. You've got something going on down there in Atlanta where you bring men together to have conversations. Can you share a little bit about what it is that you're doing with that and the types of conversations that you're having?
Yeah, we've created something down here in Atlanta, and we've got 300 members strong. It's called The Exchange. And it's about an exchange of ideas. It's about connection. It's about real, raw, transparent, authentic, and honest conversations. Because so many of us ambitious men, we don't like to ask for help. We don't like to have real conversations. We like to talk about business, sports, power, women, and all things politics. But we don't like to talk about our struggles, our triumphs, our desires, what we need, what we don't need. And so through retreats, through dinners, through quarterly get-togethers, and through weekly coffees, we, through conversations, establish connection between ambitious, like-minded men. And through a very facilitated process, we bring up a topic that allows us to talk about real problems, real issues, and real celebrations in life. And so topics could range from gratitude to the masks that we wear as men, and we all wear masks, the tough guy, the cool guy, the important guy, the funny guy, the powerful guy. We all wear those, to forgiveness, to love, to relationships, to failure. And so they're facilitated conversations or dinners or events. And it has been the most rewarding thing that we've done, because you get all these alpha ambitious dudes, right? These are dudes from all walks of life with all kind of different things. And then through a very facilitated, very quick process, they begin to open up and peel back the onion and talk about real things, because we all have real insecurities and fears and wounds and issues with our relationships with our wives and our kids and everything that we don't like to talk about, because we've got to always be perfect. We're men, we're going to sit on this white horse till we die. And through this group, we've facilitated these conversations. And, it's what I do in my life one-on-one. It's what I do in my public speaking career. But this is in a more macro touch more lives format. It's been something that I'm very proud of. I've got 5 other business partners, including one woman, because we want to open this up to women eventually too, not women and men. We want to have a men's group and then a women's group and then do men and women together. And so it's something that brings connection. It's something that brings a level of intimacy and also a level of transparency and vulnerability to guys who would otherwise just hide in the shadows. And Rocky, I hate to say this, man, our bullshit masks, this tough guy, cool guy, can't show weakness guy, is killing us literally and figuratively. And even worse, it's killing our relationships with our significant others and our kids. And so we're trying to break that cycle one man at a time. And that's what the exchange is all about.
And that's cool. It sounds a little bit like a mastermind, which I know a lot of people kind of relate to Napoleon Hill, but this type of thing has gone on in history. And I think one of the most recent famous people who did something like this was Ben Franklin. And he had something that was called a junto. It was a club. And basically what he did was have men come together to discuss questions of philosophy and morals and politics and how to better society and how to better yourselves. And that was picked up because it goes back. And if you look back through history, it's always been there. Throughout time, there have been groups of people who have come together. And when they have these conversations, they bring about massive change within their communities, within their lives. And so I encourage everyone to find those people that you can have those types of conversations with. They're out there. It's hard to find them, and it's hard to get people to put down their mask and have that conversation. But when you have the opportunity to find these types of things, go do it.
I completely agree. And Rocky, to me, the easiest way to find your tribe and to find those people is to be vulnerable yourself. And what I mean by that is show some of your insecurities or scars. And then if that person judges you or runs, that's not your people. And who cares about them anyway? But the guy or gal that steps up and steps in and has that all, and says, hey, I experienced that same fear too, or hey, I've struggled with that as well. That's your tribe. And what'll happen is you'll start building this inner circle or this board of directors or mastermind or whatever you call it. And I have it in my personal life. I have it. You and I are in a mastermind together that we pay to be in. And then I also have it within the exchange. You'll find this community of like-minded people who just want to lift each other up. And it to me is one of the, outside of gratitude, meditation, and forgiveness, having an inner circle, a trusted inner circle of people who believe and love and want to make you better and will hold you accountable to that betterment will be one of the most life-changing things you ever do.
And that's very true. And so I encourage people to find their way. And there's actually a great TED Talk from Brené Brown on vulnerability. And it's kind of funny. So if you get a chance, it's on YouTube and you can see how much this power of sharing and being vulnerable really opens up a whole new world.
So true. And to know that you're not alone in your fears, that I'm not good enough, the worthiness. And you and I talked about, Rocky just was nice enough to refer me and to remind me that I am enough. And he did, I guess it was something like a TED Talk. But know that we're not all alone, especially I work with men. And men, I'm telling you, every single man on earth is scared. We're insecure. We wonder what happens if they figure out if we don't know what we're doing. We crave respect and we fear humiliation. And let's cut through the bullshit and know that you're not alone. You're simply not alone in that. So put down your armor and mask and let's move forward as men and talk about what scares us, why we don't feel like we're supposed to feel. And let's move forward and step up and step in and become the men that we're supposed to be. I could get on a huge soapbox about that, brother, and I'll just leave it at that.
I will put a link to the video. It's from Marissa Peer, and it's basically called I Am Enough. And I think that's what people need to realize. When you realize you're enough wherever you're at, then you have the courage and the ability to stand up and do whatever you want to do next.
So true. Not alone, man. We're just not alone in our fears. And life is short. Let's go out and enjoy it and carpe diem. Let's look at the fears. Let's talk about them. Now let's move forward and work on being happy and joyful. So, I mean, there's the flip side of that too, right? It's work, but it's so fun and important work. It's just a matter of whether you choose to step up and step in, right?
It is, and it's a choice. You can choose to live the way you're living, or you can choose to live the way you want to live.
So true. So true.
Is there anything else you wanted to share on the subject of living a richer, more meaningful life, but didn't get a chance to?
I don't think so. I'm going to leave you with two things. I think some great wisdom was given to me one time by a river rafting guide, and I was getting ready to do a lot of class 5 rapids in a very dangerous river. And he said, people, you've got to participate in your own rescue. And I was like, man, that is a great analogy for life. And what he meant is turn over, put your head up, look for the rope and swim, because we might not get to you and you could die. And what a great analogy for life, to knowing that we can participate in our own rescue. We can choose to invest in ourselves, because we don't invest. We always put ourselves last. We invest in the stock market. We invest in businesses, but we invest in ourselves last, both emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually. Do the hard work, step up and make this best life possible. So I'll leave with that. And last thing is, if you or your audience wants my legendary life plan, it's a 1-page document of how I live my life. It's literally my day-to-day aspirational, tactical action plan. It's a 1-page document. People seem to really dig it. I just walked into an advertising firm recently and they had it hanging on their wall. I was like, oh my God, my life is hanging on this firm's wall. And what they use it for is a guide to how to live their life. And I hope that if you want that 1-page document, that you will build your own, whatever that means. And that way you can live the legendary life, whatever that means to you. And you can do that by just emailing me. I would love to hear from you. You can say I'm completely full of it, or you can say, hey, I love what you had to say, or anything in between. I'm always open for constructive criticism, but email me at tommy@tommybreedlove.com. That's what I want to leave everybody with, Rocky.
Cool. Based on our conversation today, what's one action step people can take to move forward this week?
Gratitude. Take 1 minute every day to write down 5 things that you're thankful for. If you do that 1 minute for the next 365 days, take 1 minute to write down 5 things you're grateful for. It will absolutely change your life. That would be my action step.
And I think that's an awesome action step. And it will leave people with more gratitude. And we can all use that.
Which is love and abundance, which is the exact opposite of fear. And things will start appearing in your life. It'll seem like magic. I don't want to go all woo-woo on you. But just by doing that 1 minute a day and being thankful for what you have and where you are, it will absolutely change your life.
It's time to learn the secrets of life. What's your secret to living an abundant life?
Invest in yourself every single day, and invest in not just your muscles. It's like going to the gym. Don't just go to the gym, but invest in your heart, your mind, and your soul. And what will happen is over time, you'll start to unconditionally love yourself. You'll start to become the master over your thoughts. And so those negative things that appear in all of our brains will start minimizing themselves. and you'll start truly believing that you are worthy and enough and that you are lovable. And when that happens, financial success, professional success, relationship success, because you believe in yourself, others will start believing you. Double down and invest in yourself with meditation, with gratitude, with physical exercise, and whatever spiritual exercises that you can. So that's the secret to life for me, and to live an abundant, filled life without fear.
And I think you've hit on most of the themes here at Richer Soul. What did you learn later in life that you wish you would have learned sooner?
I think to give, to receive. For me, one of my mantras in life is always give 51% more than you receive. And so constantly being of service to others, boundaried service. So I got to be careful what I say, because people want to people please, and that's dangerous. But for me is giving both time and money into helping others alleviate their suffering. When you do that, when you give 51% and only receive 49%, which means you're on the giving side as opposed to the receiving side. And so many of us try to take in life and try to make it all about us. But when we make it about our fellow humans and our fellow people and give more than we receive, that's something I wish I would have known earlier. And it didn't hit me till 36 or 37. So I'm trying to get on the right side of karma on that front, my brother.
And there's much more pleasure in giving than there is receiving.
So true. So true.
What is one piece of advice you would give to your younger self?
That one's tough for me because I come from a very violent past. I'll just leave it at that. I was taught at a very young age that I was a piece of garbage and that I was unlovable. And I'll just leave it at that. So what I would tell myself and everyone on earth is we were all put here for a reason, regardless of what you've been through or what you've been told you are or what you've been shown you are. And they can take your dignity, they can take your pride, but they never can take your soul. And that you are lovable and you are worthy to be here. And I don't care who you are, where you come from, or what race, gender, or what other label we want to put on us, is that we're all lovable and we're all worthy. And never, ever, ever give up, no matter how tough it may seem. Never give up. There's always another opportunity to live a great life. And my advice would be, you are lovable, you are worthy, and there is hope. And so that's what I would tell my young self.
And I think that's probably a message that should be on every school wall everywhere for people to know and for every kid to hear and to internalize.
So true. So true.
So if people would like to find you and connect and continue the conversation, what's the best way for them to do that?
I would love for them to email me. I am not even joking on that. I would love to hear from people. Tommy@TommyBreedlove.com. I'm on all the social media at Tommy Breedlove. They can find me. You can also find me at Choose Goodness. But I would love to hear from folks at Tommy@TommyBreedlove. Tell me what you're working on. Tell me what you're learning. Tell me what you're struggling with, and let's just have a conversation and set up a virtual coffee. So I would love to hear from folks. And hopefully, Rocky, you and I threw down some goodness and wisdom today that people can apply to their lives. Every time I speak on one of these, brother, I'm talking into a mirror. I'm like, are you hearing this? Are you hearing it? Because you need to hear it. And so I hope to hear from folks, and I would love to know their thoughts, man.
And I encourage people to take action and send an email, because really, what's the worst that can happen? You have a conversation that changes your life.
And maybe changes my life, God willing, right?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thanks, Rocky. Be well, brother.
Life has its ups and downs. We need to do the inner work, be clear on who we are, and doing the work to build the inner muscles to live life. It's not taught in school, and our society is designed to put you into the drift. Be clear on your purpose, and if you don't know, start taking steps to find it. As we talked about, it's not something you wake up and know tomorrow. It's going to take time to figure out, and it changes over time. This week's action step was, take 1 minute every day to write down 5 things you're grateful for. When we change our focus from expectations to appreciation, our lives change dramatically. And the action step is one tool to help you move forward to that. It's all about baby steps. There's lots of great resources in the show notes this week to help you take those baby steps. If you're still listening, you must have liked the episode. So please share it with a few friends, and if you get a chance, leave a review. I'd appreciate that. You can also connect with me on Facebook. There's both a Facebook page and a Facebook group for Richer Soul. What's preventing you from moving forward, and who are you putting on your team to help build the life you deserve? Taking no action creates a far worse outcome in life than trying something and failing. Can I help you achieve your financial and life goals through coaching and accountability? Just email me, and we can start with a short chat to see if we're a good fit for coaching. For many people, one session allows them to take a giant leap forward towards their dreams. You can get me at rocky@richersoul.com. I'd love to hear how you're doing and how the information I've shared has helped. Thanks for listening. Have an abundant week.